We're mute again. Gotta love technical difficulties.
Okay,
Greetings.
you're here. You're here.
Yes, I am back. Greetings. Welcome back to a very special episode of the Death, Taxes, and Sports. Hopefully, my connectivity and technology decides to work with me today. But we're back for episode 107, sir. But Ben Holloway, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Awesome. We got some stuff to talk about. Ben and Marissa will be joining us shortly. But tonight we're going to be discussing some week 6 of the NFL. Philly and San Francisco finally going down. Which of those losses are going to be more impactful for the season? NFL's biggest surprises, and as well as much more in fantasy football, and as well as Colorado and Coach Prime with that defeat. But first, we got to start with this 29-0. I don't know where to start. There's all smiles.
I got you covered.
Coach Prime starting out 29-0. I want to give him a pass, but not give him a pass because it's 29-0 and they've already won 4 games. There's only but going up, and there's going to be growing pains. But man, when you're up 29-0 like that and your offense completely goes stagnant, that can't be happening.
Yeah, and so check this. This just blew my mind. The Stanford wide receiver, I'm going to try and get his name right, Elik Iomanar. That's what we're going to go with. Elik Iomanar. Before the Colorado game, 5 games, he had 15 catches and 207 yards. 5 games total, 15 catches, 207 yards. Against Colorado, 13 catches, 294 yards. He doubled his production almost on catches and yards. Almost 300 yards receiving and 3 touchdown catches for someone who, based upon the prior 5 games, doesn't really seem like a legit NFL prospect. I mean, maybe with that game, and maybe I'm underrating him, but his stats were basically nothing for 5 games, and then he just goes.
Yeah,
Of course, was Colorado's 17 penalties.
Yeah, there's one of 2 ways you could look at it. You could look at the fact that maybe they just had horrific quarterback play, and the reason why, they were going through a 2 QB system, so they were kind of flip-flopping quarterbacks. But when they decided to keep with one quarterback, which whatever his name is, I think he has cemented himself as the quarterback for the season and as well as into the future. So maybe we'll see how he does in the next game. So I'm definitely going to be intrigued to that. But the man is 6'4" and is a complete beast. So I think, he might not have had those type of dominating performances just due to the sporadic quarterback play, but more so for this defense. Like Shedeur Sanders, I don't blame him for this loss, albeit he did have that interception. The man still threw for 500 yards, had 1 interception, and completed for over 70% of his passes. So I can't put this on him. But this offensive line is a huge issue. This defense is absolutely horrendous, and they can't stop anybody. It's just they have yet to be able to play a full 60 minutes of good football, and that's what you wanted to see in a game like this where they were 12.5-point favorites. But for them to lose this one, how do you bounce back from that?
Yeah, it's a 29-0 lead at halftime. Like, it's you think, they're kids. We're gonna call them kids, 18 to 21 years old. So we're gonna call them kids. You get overconfident, you get a little complacent. Usually when that happens, it'll make it, let's say, 29-17, maybe 29-21, but the team will respond and win. Similar thing happened, I think, Miami and Carolina. Right. And Carolina was up 14-0, and then it was like 35-14 Miami. Like, it changes. Normally it tilts back to the favorite. In this case, Stanford makes all their run. They tie it. It goes to overtime. All the credit in the world to Stanford. Man, it's the kids definitely got complacent. They counted it as a win before it was. And it came back to bite them in the ass. Let's just call it what it is. They thought they were done. We scored 30 points, or almost 30, 29-0. We got this win. Let's think about what we're doing tonight after this game to celebrate.
Exactly.
And that's not how it went down.
Right. And I laugh at myself because people are like, well, people on the West Coast are sleeping. I'm like, honestly, it's like 11 o'clock here in Phoenix. I'm like, that's what I love from a sports fan living on the West Coast, because you get all those later games. It's still only 8 o'clock and you still got a whole evening left after the game's over. But for them, for the rest of the season, and I didn't want to take up too much time talking about this, when you look at the rest of their schedule, they had to win this game, because I think maybe one more winnable game was that game against Arizona. But the way that Arizona blew out their opponent 41-7, I don't even know if that's even a winnable game anymore if this defense can't stop anybody. They have ranked, well, at the time, they had 4 of their last 5 games were against ranked opponents going into last week. I don't know the rankings now with some of those other teams, but still, the Pac-12 gauntlet, we said that even with the Pac-12 bigger picture, is that we're going to find out how real these teams are. And I think that there's a very good chance that they might finish the season 4-8.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they started out hot, obviously, but one thing we can say is the defense has been consistent problem. Started with the first game where they gave up, 42 points?
48, 43 against.
Defense has been a problem the whole time. And, I think that we just need to give time, as in prime time, a little bit more time to build this roster, to build this. I mean, it's already a success. They could lose the rest of the games. I don't care what anybody says. You want 1-11. You already got 4 wins. Like, I don't care what anybody says. It's a success already. If they can get 2 more, 6 wins, get to what? I don't know, 6 and 7 maybe. I mean, it's not bad. It's pretty good.
It's not. I was definitely hoping for bowl game. But anyway, enough about that. It's going to be a little bit exciting to talk about this one. But I really want to get to this next segment, man, between Philly and San Francisco finally losing. And for me, it's like, which teams have the concern going into week 7 and beyond? I definitely want to start out with this one, if you don't mind, because for me, I think it's very easy, Ben. I'm going to say Philly, because you look at it, I think that, one, they're relying on Hurts too much. But again, they're still averaging about 395.5 yards per game, which is second behind Miami. So when you look at that, you're like, okay, what is the concern? But the concern for me is this: their wins. They beat the Patriots by 5, Minnesota by 6, Tampa by 11, Washington in OT by 3, and the Rams by 9. With the exception of maybe Tampa Bay, they were the better team pound for pound against all of those opponents, and they struggled in every single game. The Tampa Bay loss easily could have lost. Washington, they easily could be 2 and 6, 2 and 4. And so for me, the concern is it's just like the gauntlet of the schedule. All by week 14, you got Miami, Washington, Dallas twice, Kansas City, Buffalo, and San Francisco. There's a very good chance that they could lose 3 or 4 or all of those games if they don't pick up their slack. And the game just haven't been convincing against some of the lower competition, losing against the Jets. And I think that Jets game should have been a very winnable game. But for me, I think it's the Eagles. What say you? Welcome, Gary.
Gary Johnson. How we doing?
Gary Legend. Where are you coming from? You look like you just came from church.
Church, no. Work, yes.
Okay. Looking.
Thank you, sir.
I got to step my game up. But we were just getting on the before we go to Ben, we were just finishing up on the 29-0 just
collapse.
Gary, I just got to know your thoughts, buddy. I just got to know. I know you don't watch college football too much, but I know you got thoughts on that.
I would love to see how Coach Prime talks his way out of this. Like there's a level of like, I'm not surprised because, look, Coach Prime has been like campaigning, has been like grandstanding for his team, and they were playing above their. They're playing above their grade. They're playing above their
level, their skill level.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to find the word for it, but their skill level, and it has been exposed not once, not twice, but 3 times now. Well, really, yes, we give their little comeback, the overtime win. Yes, well, they won, but this was not surprising. As much as a 29-0 lead and giving that up is surprising, the actual act of it, because of how Colorado is, like, they're good, but we're not going to sit there and put them in the top 4 with a Michigan with with a Georgia or anything like that. And all we're seeing is exactly why. So they're going to be a bowl team. They're going to be in a bowl game, and it'll be a fun story. But I really don't see how much more they're going to improve this season. I think we saw the best from them, and if they have to play against these top teams any further, it's going to be more of the same.
Yeah, and we were saying that we don't even know if they're even going to be able to make a bowl game, if they can even win the rest of their games. Because they got Washington State, you still got Arizona, who just blew out their opponent 41-7, win triple overtime against USC, even though they're unranked, they're tough. I mean, every single game that they've won has been a struggle. So they got to outscore everyone and just hope like hell their defense can come up with the stop. All I'm going to say is Travis Hunter shouldn't have played as many snaps as he did on both sides of the ball after missing 3 games. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, but Ben, let's throw it to you, sir, on San Francisco and as well as the Eagles. Where are you going?
Yeah.
What you thought? And we'll throw it to you, Gary.
Yeah, I'd say Philly is more concerning. The 49ers, couple injuries, obviously. Debo, McCaffrey, their left tackle, Trent Williams. Cleveland Browns, by the way, have allowed the least yards through 5 games since 1970. So the Browns are pretty darn good defense.
Hey, give them props.
Even with those injuries, you still got Ayuk, you still got Kittle. The 49ers should have won that game, but arguably if Moody makes the field goal at the end, we're not even talking about this. They're still undefeated.
It's a long 17-game season. It's going to happen.
So I think Philly is more concerning. I would say that Jalen Hurts, 7 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions. That's not good enough. Now, to be fair to him, not all interceptions are created equal. We know that. The 3 interceptions on Sunday, 2 of them, nothing to do with him. The third one, horrible decision and interception. But also, going to Philly, we need to talk about their coordinator. Ben Johnson, I believe, I actually have to steal from my friend who's an Eagles fan. Yes, Brian Johnson. Sorry. Brian Johnson, Eagles' new offensive coordinator. He's made questionable decisions, including that one. It's 3rd and 10. There's 2 minutes left exactly. There's a 2-minute warning, and the Jets have no timeouts, and you're at the 50-yard line. You run the darn ball. You get it to the Jets with probably a minute left. Zach Wilson, even if the punter screws up and it's a touchback, you still got to go a minimum of 50 yards, under 1 minute, and it's Zach Wilson. Like, you run the freaking ball. Now, Hurts can't make that throw. It was a really dumb throw. But, I mean, the play calling on offense has been questionable, and throw that on top of injuries on the defensive side. Slay missed that game. I think there's another corner that was out. Their defensive tackle, Jalen Carter, was out. There's just a little bit more questions on the Philly side compared to the 49ers. So more concerning for Philly, I would say.
Gary, what you thinking? So let's see.
I mean, Ben laid it all out there perfectly. I agree with him in the sense of the Eagles being more of a concern because they have not been any super impressive to me this season. Yes, they 5-0, but it's been very like an almost pedestrian 5-0. Like there really wasn't a lot of like flash like what we saw with the 49ers. The 49ers went up against a good defense. Let's call it what it is. And it was everybody has a trap game. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain games that you are on the schedule that all conventional wisdom says you should win, and you just kind of shit the bed. Like it happens, unfortunately.
And they still had a chance to win.
Right, and I don't think that this is going to be what causes them to lose the NFC West or not make the Super Bowl. I think you're going to have to take losses here and there, and let's face it, Cleveland is not the worst team to lose to. So
no, they're not a bad team. Like,
yeah, so for that reason, I'm leaning towards Philly. I think there is something not all the way right there. I can't
Right.
put my finger on it. Injuries, yes, but like there's almost a level of complacency with them that is becoming that's going to be problematic as the season progresses.
I think, and Marissa, welcome. How are you doing? How are you doing today on this anniversary from 8 years ago? How are you feeling?
I'm not thinking about that right now because I'm feeling all 5-1 of myself. Thank you very much.
I'm
How's
so
your
happy
Broncos
for you.
doing?
Hey, look, I own it. I'm fine. Listen, I am fine. I am good. I'm cruising along. For those who don't know the little inside joke, and it's all love, Marissa, there was a video that I saw on Facebook. I sent it to her ago where Michigan State won on the last play against Michigan. And I was like, of course, I have to throw some very kind shade towards her.
Oh, that horrible punt play.
Yes.
Oh,
That one.
Yeah.
That one. The block. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I just had to throw a little. It's all love, though. It's
Everybody.
all love. But
Everybody.
But Marisa.
Yes.
Marisa, I'm so sorry. Forgive me.
Let's get you in here. More concerned about the 49ers or Philly?
I'm more concerned about Philly. Everything that Gary said, and I caught the tail end of it. You got Jalen Hurts. I mean, the times of his unfortunate 3 interceptions and the camera zooming in on that body language. You got Jason Kelce on the sideline that literally was like shouting, I'm sure, obscenities of, the offense not getting together and it's not clicking all cylinders. The defensive front. I mean, let's not sleep on the Jets defense because we know that they can potentially be good. Obviously they have to help the Jets still having questions. Zach Wilson still having questions with his decision-making with the ball. We saw shades of possible turnaround with Zach Wilson during a couple of plays, especially the 2-point conversion that blew my mind that he connected with Randall Cobb. The Eagles is something I'm concerned about. I think that they'll get the mistake.
There was a Randall Cobb highlight. Randall Cobb? Sorry, I couldn't ignore that. He actually did something.
No, he's my age. Like he's not that old. I thought he was like 14. He's like only like 34.
Yeah, I thought right. He's been around for a long time.
That's a problem.
Everyone acting like this man is so. This man is that
because he's been playing in the NFL for the last 26 years. You can't be 34 and have played in the NFL 26 years. That's the problem. Well, I guess Jeff is working on something there in the background. Ben, why don't you take over?
Yeah, Marisa, sorry to interrupt you. Were you? Did you have more to say on Niners Philly? She seems to be frozen.
Yeah, sorry, I had some little kids crying here. I had to make sure the sound was off there. But no, honestly, like the Eagles.
She's gone.
I'm right here. Can you hear me?
No.
What?
Never mind. There you go.
Okay. What happened? We good? Okay.
We're good. We're good.
I don't know what's happening. But anyway, I'm sorry, I lose my train of thought here. But anyway, look, this and Gary and Ben, I want to throw this guys to you, like, because you look at this gauntlet, Miami, Washington. So they got Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo, and San Francisco. So that's 7 games coming up. How many of those games do they come out? What's their record? Let's put a little wager. Out of those 7 games coming up, how many of those games do you think they win?
I'll go. My first instinct was 5-2, but then I thought 4-3. So I'll go with 5-2.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 3-4. I think there's more wrong with Philly than meets the eye. I think you're going to see that. And I didn't think they were going to win more than like 11 games this season. So you got to start losing some of these games somewhere. And I feel like this is going to be the gauntlet for them. But I think a 3-4, that makes sense.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, Jalen Hurts better save his money because this is put up or shut up time, I would say, for him. So this one's going to be fun. It definitely is. I really wish Marissa was here for this one, but I don't know what happened. Maybe she'll come back on. But definitely want to get back to this next segment here as far as ranking the 5 teams that are currently at 5-1. And Gary, I want to toss this to you because we have the Chiefs, Dolphins, Lions, 49ers, and Eagles. And we want to rank the confidence level moving forward with number one being the most confident. What are your thoughts?
So you said Chiefs, Dolphins, 49ers, Eagles, and Lions.
Yes.
Correct.
Not exactly power rankings. It can be, but more so most confident in moving forwards. Who would be number one is most confident.
Got it. So I'm going to go right in order. I think that you will say 49ers because of the loss this past Sunday. I'm going to flip-flop. I'm going to say 49ers, Dolphins, Chiefs, Eagles, Lions. I think the Lions are in the New York Giants spot that we were in last season. They're the feel-good story. They're stockpiling early wins, but I don't look at them as a Super Bowl contender. I look at them as a good story and a solid contender to, a contender to win the NFC, but I don't see them actually doing it. So I think, 49ers, Dolphins, Chiefs, Eagles, Lions.
Okay. I might be a little bit opposite. Ben.
So my 1 through 5, Marisa.
He's back.
Welcome.
Marisa's
Welcome.
back.
Listen, I think this was an actual setup because you talked about the Michigan State game from 8 years ago. Jinxed the internet waves that boot me out while I was throwing shade at your, trying to figure it out, Denver Broncos. That's fine. I'm just feeling my whole championship weekend stuff, but that's cool. Go ahead.
Look, it's all great. It's great. I'm still alive and thriving. We 1-5, but we're gonna go 1-6, and we're gonna keep this thing rocking.
Okay, so let's get back into it here. We are on the confidence level. So I'm gonna go my 1 through 5. 1, and I wrote just one word or a couple next to each. I go 1, 49ers. I just wrote weapons. 2, Chiefs, Mahomes. 3, Eagles, Super Bowl runner-up. I'm going to give them respect. 4, Lions, and I wrote identity. They know exactly who they are on offense and defense, and they are proud of it, and they play the same way. They have a true identity. So I have them at 4, and then Dolphins at 5. Just a little concerned with their defense, but man, that Dolphins offense, whew. And Tyreek Hill, I'm gonna keep saying it. I don't care. I mean, he's gonna fall short of it, but now on pace for 2,300 yards. 2,300.
And Ben, what's scary about the Lions, Marissa, and we're gonna toss it to you here, is that Jameis Williams is not even fully intertwined into the offense.
No.
This guy, we are forgetting that this guy is an All-American wide receiver at Alabama, and you put him on opposite side of Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery comes back. I mean, the pieces are there. It's just going to be scary. I think they can go for a deep run. Marissa, what say you? Marisa.
Oh, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear
me?
Yeah,
we can hear you fine.
We're trying to get love.
I don't know what in the world is going on.
Lord.
I blame Jeff.
That's my fault. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Tiffany. But go ahead. What is your
I mean, obviously, I got my Lions 1 because let me just relish in the moment of what I've been wanting for a very long time, and that's a confident Lions that continually adjusts game to game. We have no Jahmyr Gibbs. We have no David Montgomery for several weeks. Amon-Ra St. Brown came back. I mean, Lions every single year, and I get the comparison from other players. I remember a fan said this to me. He said, basically, you all are like the football version of the Kennedys. Y'all become cursed every single year. And I'm like, okay, it hit my sports spirit very hard. However, every year is where we have to continually just grind it out and get through the hurdles of injuries and get through the Rolodex of coaches and go through the island of misfit players. This person's hurt, that person's out, that person's contract or whatever the case is. The Dan Quinns, the Matt Patricias, all of that is gone. This team is legit and they're for real. They got a tough task this weekend at Baltimore, but I think somehow, with Jared Goff at the helm and his defense just clicking on all cylinders, Jack Fox making consistent kicks. And showing some love to the kicker. I put them at 1. I put the 49ers 2, and I just will say bounce back, with them. Brock Purdy, listening to all the media gurus talking about that, was Brock Purdy exposed? I wouldn't say exposed, but he literally got swallowed up by that Browns defense. And I talked about it previously on another show that I was just recording. The Browns defense showed up and showed out knowing that their quarterback was not going to make the plays. 2 interceptions, didn't throw a touchdown, but that Browns defense needed to make plays, and they did. And I think the 49ers will bounce back. Chiefs number 3. If they could actually talk about a game and not talk about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, that would make it more enjoyable. Thank you. Whatever gets the ratings up for whenever they play and all of that, it's, more power to the publicists. For Dolphins, this is a team that I honestly thought that Carolina Panthers were going to seek their first win, and then Tua remembered who he was. The offense remembered who they were. Tyreek Hill remembered who he was. Jalen Waddle, who remembered who he was, and pretty much just smoked them in the dust. And they continue to evolve with their cool, calm, and collected head coach. 5 Eagles. I'm concerned about them, as we just talked about, gentlemen. Jalen Hurts moving forward, the confidence of this team, the adjustments that are going to be made. This is going to be a true test to them moving forward if they can continue on, moving in the right direction. You have Lane Johnson that's hurt, Julio Jones that got signed, which I'm still scratching my head about that, whatever juice he has left in the tank. Just to see where they're going to be. So, I got a couple of question marks around the Eagles, but I think that they will bounce back. Just, the question is how they're going to do it moving forward.
Okay. I mean, that's all, those are all, listening to some of these determinations of this kind of changed up my order here a little bit. I won't tell you what my original one was, but I'm going to say number 5. I'm going to say the Eagles, just because that gauntlet, those next 7 games are, I think, the toughest that any team can go through. And I think we're going to find out if the Super Bowl hangover is real. I mean, when you got San Francisco and Buffalo and Kansas City, like 3 teams that could legitimately win the Super Bowl, and all by week 14, that just makes me very nervous because they just haven't played a consistently good game of 60 minutes of football, whereas San Francisco, they've been dominant primarily in all of their games minus this last one. So you're going to have those games. Traveling on the road is always going to be tough, and you're down some of your key players. But I'm going to go number 4 with just the Dolphins, just because Mr. Concussion himself, I'm just waiting for him to fall and be concussed and be out for 3 weeks. Listen, I want him to do well, but I just don't believe Mr. Concussion. I'm just waiting for it. It's going to happen. He's going to be out, and then their whole season's going to be done. And then I'm going to say Lions at number 3. I'm going to say, look, Lions at number 3. I think you can make a case that they're my number 1 right now because they've been able to win without some of their full complementary pieces. And now that Jameis Williams is coming back earlier, I'm telling you, I'm excited to see what he's going to be this year and as well as next year. So I'm going to say them. 49ers, just because I want to see how they're going to be able to bounce back after they had this loss. How's Brock Purdy going to bounce back after his first game, not playing well, throwing his first interception? If McCaffrey and Debo are not there, how is he going to bounce back if Trent Williams isn't there? So I'm just a little bit shaky to see how that goes. And the Kansas City, Mahomes, they're the reigning Super Bowl champions. They made it to 5 AFC championships. To me, it just comes down to who's the best quarterback at the end of the day, and it's Mahomes, unfortunately. Sadly, that we lost to them. We got to play them again in a week or 2. But anyway, enough about my own issues. It's going to be interesting. Tigney, I want to throw you a question. How many wins do you think your Lions are going to pull off?
God, looking at their schedule, I'm sorry. Don't laugh at me, folks. 12.
Okay. You guys are 3-point underdog against the
5-1. 12 is completely.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Yeah.
What
you guys are a 3-point.
Without looking at the schedule, 13 is not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That would be.
This game against the Ravens.
That would be 8-3 to finish the season.
The game against the Ravens is what I'm all in about. Seeing they've been good on the road. I think they will take it another level if they can get past Lamar Jackson and these Baltimore Ravens. I don't think they need to be taken lightly. The Lions can't go in there and play cute. Again, with injuries and everything else, Dan Campbell and this team, I mean, Ben Johnson, chef's kiss, has been able to make adjustments on offense. The defense needs to continue playing as great as they've been. Shout out to Coach Glenn. But it's a hostile environment there, and this team is, it's John Harbaugh in this team. They had to grind it out in London. Well, that's London now. That was London. This is their own backyard. So this is, I think one of the first tests. People say, I'd say the second test. The first test was Kansas City, and then people were putting asterisks by it because Chris Jones and Travis Kelce were not in that game. Okay, yeah. But this is going to be a big one for them.
Yeah. No doubt. And, hey, it's going to be good. You guys are 3-point underdogs against the Ravens, which I think is.
And see, here's the thing that I don't want, because I talked about this, is I don't want to get close, which I got a feeling it will be. And I don't want it to have them to have the ball. And I don't want it to be where they get into field goal range, because the sensational opera singer by day, amazing kicker by night, Justin Tucker, has already devastated my team twice on different occasions. Yes. Yeah. So I cannot have that man be a three-peat.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep this ball rolling here. We got biggest surprises through NFL Week 6. And I'm going to take the baton on this one. And I'm going to say the Jets. I'm going to show the Jets some love right now. A team that's 3-3, sitting on a 2-game winning streak and pulling off a win against Philly. Say what you want. Zach Wilson has been playing a little bit more with his legs. I'm not saying they're going to go on a magical run and make the playoffs. But I think, considering, their next 3 games against the Giants, Chargers, and as well as the Raiders, all 3 of those games, I think, are very winnable with that defense. And they won without Sauce Gardner. So I'm just pulling a little bit of wrinkle out there, Ben, and I'm going to throw the Jets a bone there. I'm going to say they're definitely a big surprise through Week 6, being 3-3, considering all the drama that's happened.
I like it. I focused on a player, Puka Nacua.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Cup returning, is tied with Jamar Chase for number 1 in the NFL in catches. That is a huge surprise.
Wow.
Puka Nacua, 50 catches, tied with Jamar Chase. And Cup has now, and I think Nacua only had 4 catches last week.
But what makes it even better, Ben, is that Jamar Chase had a 15 reception game. So that 50 is kind of, wouldn't necessarily inflated, but he had to have like a monster of a game, because the last couple games weren't that more consistent. So let's put that in retrospect. That makes it even that more impressive.
Absolutely.
Great. Gary, what say you?
So my biggest surprise right now, I mean, even though they are below 500 currently, I think the fact that the Houston Texans have wins at this point is
they're exactly 500.
They're at 500.
Yeah. They're 3-3.
Yeah.
So the fact, further fuels my argument. The fact that they are 3-3 is surprising, because we didn't have them factored into being anything in the AFC South, and they're a game back of Jacksonville. Like, you can't. That's as good as it gets. We found that CJ Stroud is pro ready. I think, yes, it's still Houston and it's still a rebuilding team, but he's given me signs that he's going to be one of the next like solid quarterbacks, and he may be able to do for Houston what Deshaun Watson wasn't able to do. And I think if they continue to build around him, build around Nico Collins and the rest of that, solid defense, really, like, this team can go places. I don't think they're going to go far. I think maybe they'll still end up with like maybe 6 or 7 wins. But I really, at the beginning of this year, thought 2, 3, maybe 4 wins. Like, they're trending upward. So I think right now, the 3-3 Houston Texans are my biggest surprise.
Okay. Hey, and what's crazy? They're actually my second pick. Before I toss it to you, Tiffany, just work with me here on this one. He had 191 passing attempts without an interception, which was second most to start the career without throwing an interception.
That's
So he
wild.
finally, right?
Mhm.
So he was only 20 less than Kyler Murray at 211, and I saw that on NFL Red Zone, and I had to write that down because I had it. That was a hell of a
He
stat.
passed Dak. Dak was number 3. I think he got 3
Yeah,
passes
yeah,
past Dak or something
yeah,
like that.
Yeah,
Something like that.
They're going to be. I said C.J. Stroud, and Tigney, I'm not just saying this to be biased, but I said at the end of the day, Stroud was going to be the better NFL prospect because of his height and his build.
I 100% agree with you. And I don't think and I think we talked about this a little bit about CJ Stroud, because you look at the unfortunate downturn of Ohio State quarterbacks and how well they do in the college ranks, but how unfortunately they don't do well in the NFL. And CJ Stroud is an exception to the rule because he's one of those quarterbacks that is green, that adjusts, that gets it. He is a quarterback's quarterback, if that makes sense. Not taking anything away from Fields, which is, a whole cluster mess going on right now with the Chicago Bears and him with a dislocated thumb and, maybe out the next game, possibly too. But CJ Stroud, there's a reason why he went to New York and he was selected for the Heisman finalists. There's a reason why that he, besides, my boys beating the brakes off of him and there was a one-sided affair, that was just a game. But to be fair, I knew that he was going to be one of these quarterbacks that's going to do very well in the NFL. And him and Coach Means, somehow they have that connection where each game he's starting to not look like a rookie because he's starting to adjust and he's getting it. Because you obviously will have rookies like, oh my God, it's their first year. CJ Stroud is one of those exceptional players to me where he just continues to evolve, and not game to game, but he evolves each quarter with adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to be something. He's definitely going to be something to be paying attention to over the next coming years.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely very, very, very excited about it. But Tiffany, what was your selection as far as
my surprise?
Your biggest surprise.
My biggest. I don't want to say I call them the biggest surprise, but I will say they're on the upswing. But if they can find an identity, that would be great. Would be the Washington Commanders, coming off of a lopsided loss before going into a hostile Atlanta Falcons dome, and pretty much Sam Howell turning it around and putting the smack and throwing 3 touchdowns in the yardage that he had. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was just, you gave the Bears this their first win, and then the embarrassment that y'all had at you're at your home. You go on the road and you turn it around and you play I don't want to say a simple game, but you played a better game, a less mistake-prone game than previous. And the Washington Commanders are one of these teams where I watch them, and you just look at them, and you're like, okay, but can they make the adjustments and be better the next game, or is this just going to be one win? I see it as knitting. Knit 1, purl 2. Knit 1, purl 2. Are they going to be a 1 win, then 2 losses? Then 1 win, then 2 losses. Then, you're trying to figure out who they are. So they're a team that is got my curiosity of how we shouldn't be surprised if they start knocking on the door and surprising folks if they make it into the postseason, is what I want to say.
Okay, I mean, those are all fair facts, and this is going to be a very interesting time as we're getting to halfway through the season.
And I think it's going to be where Eric Bieniemy is going to continually get credit, and I just want him to be where a lot of teams did not pick him as a head coach have deep regret, because he's a talented OC.
Hey, and Sam Howell is looking like Joe Montana sometimes with some of those throws that he's making. He's making some real NFL throws, especially the one against Sarah McLaurin against my Broncos defense. But I got to give props where props is. That was a heck of a
They
throw.
go against Gary's Giants next week. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, let's see. Ben, I want to toss it to you, sir. NFL's biggest disappointment. I'm curious your thoughts on this one, especially.
I gotta go Patriots, man. New England Patriots. They scored. This is the first two games against two really good teams, Eagles and Miami. They scored 37 points combined in those two games against two 5-1 teams. They played 4 games since those first two. They've scored 35 points in total over those 4 games. Like, I don't need to say any more. That's the biggest disappointment for me.
I just want to throw just one quick question in here. Do we feel like, and just a quick, just like 5 seconds each, yes or no, why? Do we feel Bill Belichick with each passing year he's tarnishing his legacy? Like each passing year, because here's the thing, like it's not even.
I would say bit by bit, yes.
It's not even the and Tigney and Gary, it's not just the blowouts, but it's just the simple mistakes that they're making as far as too many people on the field, not having the substitutions correctly, the lack of attention to detail, the constant penalties that are killing them when they're able to get drives into their team's territory. It's just like the small things that they used to do so well that they're messing up on.
All I know is this: that Tom Brady should have retired as a New England Patriot. Mm-hmm. Whatever went behind closed doors, that whole entire thing messed up on. I know behind the scenes they're all punching air, because as long as he stayed in the NFL, ain't no way in the world he should have won than a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And they want to bring with them, and that's great and that's cool and everything. But that just goes to show all of us that's been watching football for a very long time that they could not, and they still can't operate without him. And they don't know how to move on from him. When's the next time we're going to see them have the dynasty that they had? It's gonna be a long time. I mean, we've seen more anger and tantrums with the poor Microsoft iPad that Bill Belichick has thrown on the ground than usual, because this is a team that has question marks of their quarterback, and it is the whole entire mood of this team. I mean, literally, it looks like they're going to tank for Caleb or tank for whatever kind of picks they have to fix this team. But we're not going to see a dynasty out of this team for a very long time, gentlemen, and those that are watching that are Patriots fans. Sorry to say.
Yeah. But hey, you got 6 rings. It's a lot better. But anyway, Gary, question now, real quick. Do you think you tarnish?
I mean, his legacy is going to be forever tied to Tom Brady. So anything that has happened pre-Brady and post-Brady is kind of who Bill Belichick is as a coach. He is not like, look at his records. Look at the teams that he's had. If he didn't have such a generational talent, a once-in-a-lifetime talent that they managed to get with the 6th round pick, we wouldn't be talking about Bill Belichick as the GOAT of coaches. We'd be talking about him as just another run-of-the-mill coach that keeps getting job after job. Hell, if Bill Belichick didn't have Tom Brady, Bill Belichick would probably be a defensive coordinator somewhere, just retiring or something. Like I really firmly believe that his legacy is tied to Brady. So what we're seeing post Brady is exactly what we saw prior to.
Okay. All right. Hey, all fair stuff, but let's kind of keep this ball rolling on this. Just want to throw that question out there. And as far as NFL's biggest surprises, I'm just going to throw it out there. ESPN has this gentleman ranked as wide receiver 6, and his name is Adam Thielen. Okay. You want to talk about a dude that has just been founding the fountain of youth. This man in week 6 had 11 receptions for 115 yards and a touchdown. And on the season has 49 receptions and 509 yards of receiving and 5 touchdowns. As bad as that team has been, Adam Thielen, Tigney, has been the bright spot of that offense and that team. And I just have to give the man kudos. Thielen, if you're watching, I doubt it, but if you are, giving you a shout out.
Come on to the show too.
Yeah, let's bring him on. But for you, as far as the biggest surprise,
Surprise? You mean disappointment?
Yeah, you kind of skipped around. Gary and Marissa didn't get their disappointment. You hopped to
Oh,
fantasy.
my bad. Let's go back. I'm so sorry. I lose my train of thought.
No, I gave the surprise, which was the Washington Commanders. The disappointment is an individual. And I'll put the question out to you gentlemen, just to make sure my facts are correct. But disappointment is Jimmy Garoppolo. When is the last time that Jimmy Garoppolo has played a full season as a starter? Please help me out with that. Exactly. So that is my disappointment. The money, the bag that was thrown to him when he came over to the Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo has become nothing but an injury-prone quarterback. People have said that he won a ring by default with the New England Patriots. Say what you want to say, that's fine. But to invest so much money into someone that cannot consistently start, for a defense that cannot, for an offense that cannot protect him, for him to not make the accurate throws, it's been a disappointment to watch the Las Vegas Raiders fans, and I got a few of them that I talk to consistently, just be upset that basically they can't have anything. They can't have anything nice. They can't have anything go their way. It's just a big disappointment that this investment that the Raiders have put their time and money into does not return their football version of ROI. Mm-hmm. It's just not happening, guys.
Josh,
he can prove me wrong down the road if he stays consistently healthy the next 7 to 10 games, but
he needs to retire. He's a guy that needs to start worrying about his quality.
What is he, like only 32, 31?
Yeah.
32?
He's got gray hair. He looks like a 40-year-old man. That's all I'm going to say. He's got to think about. Yeah.
It's just sad to see him early in his 30s be on the decline. Looks, it's basically like, I want to compare it to this. He looks like a beautiful, amazing, polished, shiny apple. And then you take a bite of it, and more bites you see bruises and all kinds of stuff on the inside of it. He looks fit. He looks like he can go in there. He looks like that he could play a full entire game. And then boom, he's down, back injury. Boom, he's down, leg injury. Boom, he's down, wrist, hand, whatever it is.
Gary,
the track record speaks for itself.
Gary, real quick before we go to fantasy football, biggest disappointment, quick.
I'm gonna go with Jeff's Denver Broncos. I'm gonna say
he made a sandwich out of it.
No, I think
that was mine too, so it's fine.
No, I'm sorry. The more I know, we try to do 2 different ones, but everything about that team just screams disappointment. Sean Payton is giving Urban Meyer in Jacksonville right now, and it's not a good look. Russell Wilson cooked. That offense, non-existent. That defense, they are the Denver Broncos, no D. So, this is. I was expecting more from them. I didn't expect them to be necessarily a playoff contender per se, but I did not expect for the downfall of Russell Wilson and Sean Payton and their prominence to be so. It's rarely ever pretty, but this is just bull and shoe ugly for them.
When they're second to last, I think in point differential, they have a negative 71 point differential, folks. A negative 71. You see what, and before I toss the event, you see what Sean McVay is doing with a very depleted roster in LA, and you put the LA Rams roster up against the Broncos roster. Mm-hmm. And I really do not think the Rams roster is so overwhelmingly better than ours. I just don't think so. I still think Judy and Sutton are decently talented, capable wide receivers to win you more than just one game in your first 6. It's coming down to coaching, because if Sean McVay led that Broncos team, I guarantee you we would be 3-3. That's all I'm going to say. But Ben, take it away.
Yeah, so on fantasy football, biggest surprise is Thielen was yours, and that is great. And I will say that the Dolphins have 2 running backs that are top 5 running backs. PPR formats, out of the 5 top running backs, Dolphins got 2 of them. And a bonus would be Sam Laporta, tight end 2 on the year.
That's what I had on my sheet. You exactly correct.
Man, I'm sorry, Marissa.
That's okay.
What about the Falcons? What about that Falcons, Jonnu Smith? We're not talking about Jonnu Smith at all for the Falcons.
He's outscored Pitts, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, well, Pitts had 2 decent games, but Jonnu Smith is top 5 and is a top 5 tight end in fantasy football according to ESPN. I'm just saying, I don't know how. I don't know, but take a look at it. Go ahead.
No. Gary.
Okay.
Fantasy football surprise. Have at it.
Kyron Williams, running back from the Rams. Like, I knew that the Rams in their running game was going to be a huge question mark going into the season. I can say prior to injury, he has been basically a godsend for my roster. Like, he has put up double digits every game, including the game he got hurt in. He gave me 21 points. So, like, you look at somebody like him. You mentioned the Miami running backs, A-Train and Mostert. And then you got Jeff Wilson on coming back on the horizon as well. So like they're just like the rich is getting richer there. But yeah, I would say Kyron Williams has been like the real like the breakout or the surprise for me this season. And to a slightly lesser extent, Nico Collins, but I think Nico Collins just needed to have a solid quarterback to throw to him, and he's got it. So
Mostert's 31. I didn't realize that. The man found the fountain of youth, and he's playing like a top 10 running.
He's 31.
Yeah,
yes, he is.
He's been playing for that long. Like he's been around.
He had that.
he's been around for a
He
minute.
was the star of that NFC Championship game with like 3
I
touchdowns
thought he had.
over
I was late
200
20s.
rushing yards.
Yeah.
And they went to the Super Bowl like in 18, maybe. He had
Yeah,
that crazy
no, it's
NFC
not
Championship game where Garoppolo threw it 9 times.
Yeah, no doubt. But let's get to these biggest disappointments here. Did everyone go? I just want to make sure before I forget.
We good.
Everyone went. Okay, I just want to make sure. Sometimes I lose my train of thought. But I'm gonna start with this biggest disappointment, and it was out between Miles Sanders and T. Higgins, but I'm just gonna say T. Higgins. This guy is ESPN has ranked at wide receiver 64, and week 6 only had 2 receptions for 20 yards, but total in the season 14 receptions for 149 yards receiving. Depending on how you did your running back, if you drafted your first 2 running backs, you're probably going to land with T. Higgins in the 3rd or 4th round as your number 1 receiver potentially, or your wide receiver 2. You expected if you got a steal that he was going to be able to produce better than wide receiver 64 again, according to ESPN. And so, yes, even with the rib injury, I just think that he has had just a terrible start, and he's been killing my fantasy football team. Since I'm 1-5 in one of them. But I'll leave that alone. Well, Tiffany, I think she's gone, so we'll just throw it to you, Ben.
So for me, I know that he had an injury and maybe not 100%, but getting closer to 100%. Joe Burrow right now is QB 21 in fantasy. And I just had to write down some names that if you said 6 weeks ago would have more fantasy points than Joe Burrow, everybody would have asked you, how many drugs have you smoked today? These 5 quarterbacks all have more fantasy points than Joe Burrow. Josh Dobbs, Desmond Ridder, Jordan Love, Sam Howell, and Baker Mayfield.
And Baker Mayfield.
Now he was
Lord.
close. It was only by like 2 points, but yeah, Baker. So those 5 all have more than Burrow. And you likely drafted Burrow in the 5th round, 4th round. And he's QB 21.
Yeah.
QB 21.
Yikes. All right, let's keep this thing going. Tiffany, Gary, your thoughts.
I'm going to go really quick, and hopefully smart fantasy football people that are playing fantasy football, your girl is not, but hopefully you put oh my God, I just went blank on him. Why? Oh my God, not Jalen Hurts. Justin Fields. There we go. Hopefully you put
Fields.
him on the bench and keep him there.
Well, he's hurt
I would
now.
say, well, before the injury, he shouldn't be started. That's just been a disappointment. I thought the turnaround would happen after they finally figured it out and got their first win. After all the stuff that happened to them, they needed some good news. They needed things to go their way, and then they just went right back to reality of everything that could go wrong went wrong. He's one of the ones, and I heard an earful from a diehard Chicago Bears fan who drafted Justin Fields as his quarterback in fantasy. One, I asked him why. And two, he was just like, he believes in the kid. And I said, that's great, that's smart and everything else. But if you're trying to win fantasy football, surely you would do better than having Justin Fields starting in every single one of your games. And obviously he paid the price. Justin Fields is out again for several weeks. And so those that have him as your fantasy quarterback and you did start him, thoughts and prayers.
Facts. Jerry?
My gut tells me Daniel Jones because, it's hard to be an effective quarterback when you have about 9/10 of a second to throw the ball. But I'm going to also throw out there the trap that was one Odell Beckham Jr. People say, oh, he's coming back. He's going to be effective. He's going to be a good weapon for Baltimore. 9 receptions, 113 yards for the season. 9 receptions, 113 yards. You know what I said about Russell Wilson being cooked? That applies for Odell Beckham Jr. as well.
Oh, yes.
Hey, if you're like that sometimes, listen.
He's not getting any separation.
He's not.
He's not an elite. He's not even a good wide receiver anymore. He's average.
But Gary, his first 3 seasons, he had more output, and I remember this stat vividly. He's had his first 3 years as a wide receiver. He's had more output in those first 3 years than he has in the last 6 seasons. Okay, so let's just put that in perspective. He has been hyped, and he's been nothing but an average receiver for the last 5 years. And there's been a lot of hype behind him because of that catch. He's like Kyrie living off. He's like a Kyrie living off that 3-pointer back in 2016. What has he really done? Well, he's won a Super Bowl. I get that, but besides that, though, I think we're living off that one catch.
He's known for his catch. He's known for the amazing dance moves.
And the banana boat. Was he on the banana boat? No, the boat.
He was on the boat.
Okay. So, Gary, I know you usually have gripes, but I feel like I have to do a Jeff's gripes this one because this one really
let's go Jeff's gripes.
This one really, really, really hit to my soul.
I've been waiting for this one. Let's do it.
Let's go, Jeff.
On September 30th, 2023, the Marlins clinched their first postseason appearance since 2003. They have only had 4 postseason appearances in their whole entire franchise history. They signed a woman named Kim Nang to be the first Asian Pacific Islander and the first woman to ever lead any major professional team in the 4 big major sports. So she was the one that built this roster from the ground up and making it to that in the first 20 years, okay? What do they decide to do? They decide to hire a president of baseball operations to serve over her and have her be second in command after this woman built this team from the ground up. I have an issue with this because this woman has produced a perennial winner and they are losing talent. Derek Jeter left for the exact same reason. Because they were not dedicated to winning or spending the money needed to be able to get the type of franchise players for them to be viable in a very tough division, mind you, with a Mets team that's going to continue to spend money, the Phillies, and as well as the Braves. And they finally make it. And so what you decide to do is curse yourselves and just show her a level of disrespect because it's just absolutely mind-boggling to me that this woman literally produced on the field for you, and you're just going to spit in the face of her and try to bring in someone else and have her be number 2. And you know what? I applaud her for leaving without having a job lined up because she respects herself too much, and I respect the hell out of that, and I will forever, ever wish nothing but bad juju on the Marlins like I do. I hate them now just as much as I do the Astros because that was a very dirty move.
She won't stay unemployed for long. But I agree with you
no,
100%. What they did to her and what they did with everything that she done for that organization, it's like that they forgot. It literally just basically, I hate using the word spit in the face of, but that's basically what I can only think of when I saw that news come out of what she's done for the Florida Marlins, and for them to disrespect her, number one, as a person that knew exactly what she was doing, and number two, to open the door for women to have that opportunity to be in a position that she was in. Literally, they just basically took the shattered glass ceiling and just replaced it with a new ceiling and said it never happened.
This woman has worked in Major League Baseball for over 30 years. She worked as an intern coming out in 1985 for the Chicago White Sox. To be a woman, an Asian woman in 1980 Chicago during that type of, she's worked her way up. She's worked her way.
Imagine what she went through during that time. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, this woman's paid her dues, and this is not because she's a woman. This woman deserved it. She earned it. And it just really pisses me off that they did that to her. And I just feel type of way about that. I just feel like I needed to recognize.
And to Jeter's credit, he hired her.
Yep.
And also she, to your point, Jeff, as great of a job as she did, she hired the manager, Skip Shoemaker, this past offseason, who then led the team to the playoffs. So did you expect something better than that?
I mean, right? Sandy Alcantara, who won the Cy Young last season. Who was the one that signed that dude? I believe it was her who found that talent, who put the pieces in place. It was her. So they're gonna have bad juju for the rest of their thing. But Gary, I know you have to go. We will end it with that. To everyone, that is the end of episode 107. Peace and love. We'll be back next Tuesday for episode 108. Hail Von Miller. Take care.